this side here, I did timber stand improvement. And as what we did is we went in here and we cleared out all the nasty trees. There was this is mostly hickory and oak, and we wanted to have more oak trees and have the oaks put on more acorns. So is what we did is we went in there and we killed all the elm trees, the locust trees, the there was a lot of ironwood in here, and so we cut all of those, killed all of them, and then we went in and selectively took certain trees out to let sunlight come through the canopy, to open up the canopy so sunlight would come through, and then we burnt the timber. And we burnt this timber, there's 70 acres right here, we burnt 3 times in 10 years. We burned it 3 times in 10 years.
Now what was
we just burnt this this last winter. We burned it. You can see the dead stuff kind of sticking.
That's a fast burn, right? It goes through there pretty fast.
Very slow. It's not
it's slow burn.
A burn like out in Colorado. Out in Colorado, the burns out there have real low humidity, and a forest fire, it gets going and it goes crazy. In Iowa, if you burn, you have to wait till the humidity is below 70% or it won't even burn. If humidity is 70% or higher, it won't burn.
Boy, you got a small window then.
Yeah, you have a very small window. And when the flames get going, it only has a flame up about that high.
Huh.
And it just goes through real slow.
Huh.
And to 70 acres, it takes all day to burn 70 acres. All day long.
Now, do you do that yourself, or do you have an outside?
I have guys come in here that specialize in that.
Yeah.
And we put a fire break. We put several fire breaks in it, and we go over on the side where the wind is blowing to you and burn that side first. And when the fire gets down, so it's got about a 30 or 40 yard black where nothing's there, then we come around where the wind's to your back and light that, and the wind takes it across. And when it gets to the burnt side, poof, goes out.
Wow. So, you know,
it's called a controlled burn.
Boy,
right here, we didn't do that, so you can see the difference.
You still got a lot of deadfall, and
you can see the difference between this side. Just look at how thick this is compared to this. So you can see way down in the timber. You can see over 100 yards down in the timber here. But here you can only see in about 50 yards.
And I see most of the invasive thorns.
Acorns.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It just makes the acorns just go crazy.
Yeah, this is proper habitat management. And when you have that, the people come in to do the controlled burn, is that expensive, or I mean?
This deal here, I got in with the NRCS, and they paid for 90% of it.
Wow.
And I paid for 10% of it. And they got a grant from Pheasants Forever, and from NRCS got the grants, and so they paid a big chunk of it. I suppose just the bill to go through one time and thin everything out and burn it one time was $10,000. And I paid $1,000 and NRCS paid $9,000.
Now, the
last time I burned it, this last time I burned it, NRC office, they ran out of money. There was no money allocated to do it. So I burn it myself. I paid to burn it, and it cost me $1,400 to have it burnt.
Huh. Now, have you seen an increase in big game or small game?
Yeah, the turkeys and the deer, there's way more deer stay in the timber because there's more food, there's more mass here. They're feeding on those acorns, and they love white oaks. And the reason we did it on this side is because this side of the timber has more white oaks in it than the other side of the timber.
Huh, that makes sense. I mean,
and so we got more bang for our buck
yeah,
by doing this side here.
And you got more bucks for your bang.
Yep. And the thing that really took off was the turkeys. The turkeys absolutely love it.
Oh yeah, with those mass crops, and that they don't like to be in that weedy trash stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
it took off.
What a beautiful morning for this interview and this walk. And this was unexpected. It's just some of the best things in life come about unplanned. And I'm just so happy to be able to share this man's knowledge with habitat enhancement, because I know he's really up on it.
I used to seed this, but when I seeded this, you'd get up in the morning to hunt, and you just scare deer. There'd be so many deer here, you'd just scare them off.
I see you got a scrape going up here.
Yeah, that scrape is there. The first day I bought the place, there was a scrape there, and it's there every year for 20 years.
Huh.
And they've been working it.
Yeah, you've hung that new limb on there.
Yep, I put that on there about 3 weeks ago. I set this trail.
Oh, you got the camera there on it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And this is the 26th day of September here in southern Iowa.
I set that, and it had already been worked. It had already been worked.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, and what I put on here is I use pre-orbital gland lure. It is lure that comes from the eyes of a deer, and there's a place called Smokey's deer lure, and you buy that from him, and all you have to do is put 3 or 4 drops on these leaves, and then that's all you have to do, because the deer come up hitting it, and then they start putting they just keep freshening it and freshening it and freshening it.
Wow.
And this is one of the things that I do this is one of the things that I do to take inventory of the deer, the bucks that I have.
And you say that this scrape has been active since you bought 20 years. This scrape site has been here for 20 years.
Yes.
That's just
always here. It's probably been here forever.
Yeah.
You know, what it is it's 2 ridges that join together, and it's a pinch point, and
you can see it's been freshly worked. With this topographical of this ground, this is at the top of the ridge. This is the ridge, then it falls off both ways. So this is an excellent travel corridor. You can see the cabin there in the background, so you could basically sit there and glass from that window and never have all kinds of enjoyment and never even have to leave the comfort of your cabin.
I got 120 acres here, and it's on the east side, the north side, and the west side, it's straight. But on the south side, it's U-shaped. Okay. And my neighbor, that's his cornfield, comes back in, which is a food plot for him and a food plot for me.
Yeah, yeah. So, and right on this ridge.
What he does, he mostly shotgun hunts. So I don't shotgun hunt down here. He doesn't have permission to hunt my place, and I don't have permission to hunt his place, but I bow hunt. He doesn't bow hunt. So I hunt the deer in this area that are crossing from mine to his during bow season, and then during shotgun season, he hunts his side of the fence with the deer. We're sharing the deer.
And the nice thing about it, you're mature enough to know that, as I've always said, they're the people's deer.
That's right.
And when the people start, just because you own property, you don't own deer.
You have to work together with your other neighbors.
Yeah. And you got to accept the fact that if the man on the other side of the fence kills a deer, it was his deer. It was not your deer.
Yeah, you applaud him.
Yeah. And at least you know what happened to that deer.
That's right.
And, but I through time, I've heard people, they've really had a conniption if somebody killed their deer.
Oh yeah.
It's like, that ain't your deer.
Yeah.
What a beautiful lay.
You can see there's a trail right there where they come across.
Yeah.
They come across, they come up out of there, they come across and walk down this lane here going to my food plot.
Wow. Just a beautiful day to be out in the woods, no humidity, cool. Here again you notice the mowed trails, and that you mow these trails and that gives you access in and out, leaves less human scent when you're traversing on your land, and it's easier to walk. And you know, fall is such a picturesque time if you wanted to bring.
Trees here like that, and the one that Cotton Ranch got in it killed it.
Yeah, I had them do that to a tree down in the beautiful oak, and they killed it in like a year. With a big mature oak like that, and that thing was just covered with those ants.
It was right in here and it fell down. Cotton Ranch, it was hollow. Another one fell down there. Cotton Ranch got in here. This is my little food plot.
Well, it's a beautiful layout.
You can see, I don't have much flat ground. It's all like this.
Yeah, a lot of hills and thrills.
If you take it all out and put it flat, shake it and make it flat, it'll probably be 300 acres.
Oh, it's good broken country. It's good for deer to hide in, get in out of the wind, sunny slopes. You know.
There's another trail camera here somewhere. Where the heck did I put it? I didn't put one here.
You're like,
I get so many of them and I forget what I got.
yeah, I know. Then one day you.
Here, but this is another deal that I do here. This is my food plot, and the deer, they've been in it.
Oh yeah, shovel track in here.
They've tore it up.
Oh, you got your blind there.
Got a rubbing post, a blind. That's my hay bale blind that I built. And
so you put that post up there, and they've done the rubbing on it.
Yep, they've tore that all up.
Huh.
Those limbs that are all broke off, they weren't broke off.
Huh.
You put that up there, you put it in a place where they come out and they can see it, and it's just like a dog wanting to pee on a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
They come up to it and they start rubbing on it, and I put some of that preorbital gland mix on it. I scrape it with a saw, and then I put that preorbital gland mix on it, and they come out and they've tore that all up.
Well, how long has that been there, Gary?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks ago, I put it there.
Yeah. And this is your homemade hay bale blind.
Yeah, this is the hay bale blind.
And this didn't cost you $500 or $600 either, did it?
Nope. You can look at the inside here. This is what it is.
Oh yeah, yeah, your seats too. Yeah.
Kind of musty smelling.
Oh well, that's. Yeah. That's pretty nice.
It's nice for. Yeah, I never hunted. I've hunted out it maybe twice. It's been here for 5 years, but it's great for like kids, grandkids. A buddy of mine, his wife loves to hunt, and so she shot a couple deer out of it, and then their grandson came down and he shot a deer out of it. He shot about 140-inch 8-pointer out of it.
Cool.
And duck shoot sits in it, and his niece, but I never sit in it hardly at all. I don't like, I've hunted so much out of a tree stand where I can look around all over the place.
The confinement.
This just sitting in one place, it just bugs the heck out of me.
I don't mind sitting in one place. I can get tired of looking at the same scenery. Where it's a stand, you can see 360 around you. Here's his colopactor. It's a pull behind colopactor that he has here. Pick that colopactor up. Relatively cheap. You pull this with your four-wheeler?
No, I pull with the tractor.
So you got a compact tractor you're pulling that with. And You got a harrow here and a disc over here. So like I said, there's another thing. You don't want to have an arm and a leg in your food plot planning apparatuses, because here's where they sit 99 9/10 of the time. And there's no use of having a large amount of money in a high dollar seeder that you only use for a few hours per year. What's your blend that you suited to? I see some clover in it.
There's some old seed that I had left over. It's a mix of Ladino clover and red clover, and then some rye grain. And it looks like they're eating all the rye grain.
Yeah, it's got the clover coming up in it.
It's got clover coming up in it, but this stuff here is the rye grain, and usually it comes up quite a bit higher.
Oh, there's a lot of deer traffic on here. So they've
you
done.
can see all the tracks.
They've done a lot of grazing, especially when it was wet.
I'll probably open up this hilltop right here a little bit more, and
yeah, I could make it elongated back in there.
Elongated, but that's all I got here is just hilltops like this. I don't have any flat ground.
Yeah, and there's no flat bottom ground. You know, it's every piece of ground is going to have its
thing to do, Gary, is if you've got like that big oak tree you got up here, if you got any of them big oaks on these flat hilltops, then clean around the oak.
Yeah.
That's your mass crop that's going to be there.
I should go in there, and there's a bunch of hickories in there. I could cut a bunch of hickories out and some small trees. I'm sure there's ironwood in there. When we cleared this top here was all ironwood. And what he did is there was so much ironwood that the guy that was clearing it, he said, it takes me so long to cut this ironwood out of here. He said, I'm not making any money. He said, can we hack and squirt it? And I said, fine with me if it's okay with the DNR. And he said the DNR is okay. So this place here was the first place in Iowa that I know of that they used this hack and squirt. What they do is they go up to an ironwood tree and they hack it with a machete. They chop it with a machete and get a wound on it. And if it's a certain size, he puts more hacks on it, and then he squirts Roundup in it, and that will kill the tree. And you can see see where they're all busted off, and those are all ironwood.
Huh.
And these small trees here, those are ironwood.
Now, how long? What age structure are we looking at this deterioration of that?
It was done like 5 years ago.
And it opened it up. It got the canopy opened up.
Yeah, and it opened this up because this was all ironwood. There was no oak trees in there.
Huh.
So it killed all those ironwood out, and then these oak trees, then they benefit of having a food plot.
Yeah.
Other things come in here that the deer like, which is like this stuff right here. These right here are sedges. They look like grass, but they're not grass.
Yeah, they're
They're sedges.
Yeah.
And you can see all of them right there.
Yeah.
See all the sedges?
Yep.
And the deer eat all that sedge.
Yep.
And then it makes the acorns, you know, the trees put out more acorns because they're not
competing for the new.
Competing with all the other stuff is sucking all the nutrients out.
And you can see the proof of the pudding right here with all this mass crop.
Yep.
Right there.
You can see them all laying down in here. You can see them all, and then also is what happens is these big trees, one of these days, these big trees are going to die. So you need to have new little oak trees growing up.
Yeah, like right there.
And so when you burn it, then that gives new oak trees a chance to grow and take place of the old ones.
And the burning doesn't harm the new growing.
No, it will not. When you burn this, that oak sapling there, it'll burn the leaves off of it, but it won't kill it.
Yeah, and that's the new future
that's the new
mass
future
crop
tree,
producer.
you know, because, you know, in 100 years, this big tree here and those big trees out there, they'll die. They'll be dead.
What kind of, just off your hat?
This one here is a white oak here.
Well, I mean, what do you, age structure do you just,
I don't know what they are, age structure wise.
Probably at least 40 or 50.
The forester, he would know more about it than I would.
But the proof is in my hand right there of mass producing.
Yeah.
And by getting rid of all the
actually, this is a food plot.
Yeah.
You know, it does not look like a food plot that you actually plant with clover and stuff, but it is a food plot.
Yeah, I mean, look at the tremendous food right here, folks. I mean, there's just all this mass crop. And this is just through proper timber management and getting rid of the undesirables. And those nutrients go into that white oak, and that's a white oak. That's the best oak or acorn mass crop that the deer gravitate to, them and the turkey. And so it doesn't have to be planted out of a package. The best habitat, if you can make good rabbit habitat, you make good deer habitat. Here's the trees that they've cut down, and here's where they've treated it, and there's several of them there. But even though these were hickories, they were taking from the white oak, so it was better to kill them out over time, and that way it opened up the canopy also and let the sedge grass types grow, and the different weeds that basically can be a food source. And that's that cutting those trees, that's a locust, and that's a pretty good sized tree. Grant, stand by that tree just so I can show the people how big that tree was.
Sure, have a big fat guy stand up here.
Well, hell, you're older than the tree.
Probably am. I probably am.
But you are a thornwood tree in life.
Exactly.
You and me are both thorns in people's
We're both thorns, exactly. We're dinosaurs.
Yeah. But that just goes to show you how big that tree and how that double ringing it and then spraying it does have an effect, and eventually it'll fall down.
I'll tell you what grows on these for people that don't know what a locust tree is.
Yeah, and that'll puncture a tractor tire in a heartbeat and an eyeball.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that.
Down by Truro in 1960, he bought 42 acres of timber for $10 an acre.
Sure.
Then he went and bought two 10-acre pieces right beside it for $10 an acre. So now he had 62 acres. Then he went and bought another piece that come up to it, was 135 acres for $50 an acre. That was like in the 60s, you know. Timber, they just paid taxes on it.
Right.
They didn't want it, you know. And this ground here, I bought it during the first farm crisis
In the 80s.
in the 80s. I gave $220 an acre for it. It's worth about $5,000 an acre now.
Yeah. I mean, you could not save that kind of money, draw that kind of interest.
It's a lot better to own this than have that money in the stock market, you know. I would much rather have this. I've enjoyed it for 20 years. What are you going to do when your money's growing in the stock market?
Right.
You know?
Well, this is always going to go up in value. I mean,
they're not making any more ground.
Yeah. And with the attractiveness of hunting, recreational, it's the quickest way to grow money if you're into that. It's a solid investment. So even though you do have expenditures, but there again, to get the money and pay taxes on the money to get the money to buy the land, that takes a lot of hard work.
Pay for it when you wind up having to, when you go to sell it. You know, when you go to sell it, then you wind up paying capital gains tax. And you wind up, it winds up catching you in the end.
Yeah.
Or if you die, your heirs wind up having to pay an inheritance tax.
To keep it. To keep something that you created, paid taxes on, and well, that's politics. So we're in the woods.
They get you one way or the other. One way or the other, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Now we're coming down to the water. We've got a camera down here.
Yeah, a pond here.
Yeah. This is a watering source. All right. Yeah. So it's got a well-used trail right down to the pond. And this pond is really, really secluded out here. It's way back in the way back, so it could be utilized 24/7 with no human intrusion whatsoever.
I hunt from this ditch back this way. That side of the ditch over there, there's about 35 acres. I never hunt it.
It's like a sanctuary.
That's my sanctuary.
Yeah.
35 acres of sanctuary. With the deer, when they get wounded, they go down to that ditch or over on that side. That's where I find them over there.
Huh. And that's the only time you would even venture in there.
The only time I go in there.
Yeah, and people got to remember that.
Yeah.
You cannot.
I don't take the whole thing.
Yeah, you just hunt the fringes of it.
Yep.
And there are times that you have to venture in, but you've set your criteria up for that.
This part right here, I never go in either.
Yeah.
And in fact, my buck that I shot last year, I got a bad hit on him, and we found him in here.
Yeah, he's close to the water, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful setup.
This is a red oak here. So this one here, we'd cut it out because we want a white oak. We don't want a red oak.
Yeah, the white oak is the better mass crop for the food source. But that definitely goes to show you, as subtle as it may seem, the timbers change every minute, every hour, every day, 365. And here is an example of what happens. As you see, as this cordon was put on, but you still had a fungus, a mushroom type, still growing off of the dead tree.
And the insects and the birds get to enjoy that tree till it falls over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a bug tree?
Yeah. So it does. You don't have, when you do this, you don't have all these mass trees laying on the ground. It takes years for them to fall down.
Yeah.
So everybody in the woods that uses a dead tree enjoys it. So
yeah.
So it does what it does there.
Those dead trees that you took video of back there that are standing, they've been standing there for 5-6 years.
Yeah. And the wildlife, like I said, the pileated woodpecker, I know, the first time I seen one of them, I thought it was a football. You know, because I'd seen them in Canada, but it was really rare to see them here in southern Iowa. And they got their own, you know when they're there, because they got their own voice. Yeah, I mean, really, and not every timber will have them in there. It's just like the gray squirrel. When I hunted in Osceola, on the other side of the interstate, never seen a gray squirrel. I moved on the east side of the interstate, and gray squirrels were a common sight.
Yep, they're everywhere.
Kyle's got a bunch.
There's more gray squirrels here than there is
the fox. Squirrels. Yeah, it's amazing how that does that.
And them gray squirrels, I mean, there's a big difference. A red squirrel, they'll just plop.
Yeah, that's gray squirrel.
They stop. Gray squirrel, they're like they're on meth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I shot a trophy gray down in Missouri one time, and he was as silver as, and then I ended up not getting it taxidermied. The hide rotted on me, and it was a trophy squirrel.
That's what I grew up hunting in Wisconsin, was gray squirrels. And I remember I finally seen my first fox squirrel in Wisconsin. That was very unusual. And then that's what's here, but you got these little pockets of grays in Iowa.
Yeah, they're quick.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to hunt squirrels, and all the time I've had this place, I've never shot a squirrel off.
Well, here's 3 old farts in the timber.
Exactly.
Yeah. The tractor is the oldest. Thank God. Boy, I really enjoyed your time and your property, Gary, and I know my viewers will really appreciate seeing southern Iowa and what you've done with your management. And I really didn't even plan on this. It just happened sporadically. So that's pretty good. You know, so that's it from the non-typical Norwalkian from another slice of heaven here in Clark County.